Hey folks, it's time for TWiP Pro Photo Critique number 57. This is TWiP. Hey, welcome back to another This Week in Photo, aka TWiP Pro Photo Critique. This is critique number 57, and we've got lots of stuff to talk about on this show or this critique session with you guys today. Lots of good submissions in the community this week around our topic of portraiture. So we have some thoughts on those. We're going to share those in just a second. But before we do that, let me say hello to my amazing partner in crime, Mr. Troy Miller. Troy, how's it going, man?
I'm good. I've just recovered from WPPI. I'm rehydrated, so I'm feeling pretty good now.
You're rehydrated. It's funny. WPPI, or I think Vegas in general. I was talking to someone in Vegas about this, but it's like you get off your schedule, obviously, right? Because you're off of your normal routine. And my normal routine, I drink a lot of water on my normal routine, but there's no water readily available. Because they want you to drink alcohol, which dehydrates you. So you end up being dehydrated, and then you have alcohol in you, and your whole body chemistry is off. And yet it's just like, it's not good, man. It's not good.
I know. The only water I think we got for the few days was what was in the whiskey glass, you know, and then the ice cube. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I had once I became cognizant of that, I was like, okay, water. Give me water.
Right.
And it made for a much more pleasant trip. So, my Vegas tip to you is know that the evil powers that be in Las Vegas want you to be dehydrated so that you consume more alcohol, get drunk, make bad decisions, lose your money.
Buy stuff at the WPPI trade show, of course. Yeah.
Right. Oh, you know what? Before we get started, let me tell you my robbery story from Vegas. So I had a room in the Vidara, which is in City Center, and one night I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna stay. I'm gonna stay in the room, not going out. I'm just gonna stay here. I'm gonna get email done. I'm gonna relax and decompress and be on my game because I was emceeing the booth in Panasonic's booth.
Right.
So we had to be there relatively early, and there wasn't any opportunity for me to be Mr. Zombie mode and just checked out. Right. So I was like, okay, let me just, let me be an adult this time. I did not want to leave the room. Of course, there's no water in the room except in the mini bar. There were 2 bottles of Dasani water in there. So I was weighing it. I'm like, I could go downstairs. There's a Starbucks There's a Starbucks right next to the elevator, but that would entail getting dressed and going down there. And I might see people, then I'll have to talk. And, or I could just go to the mini bar and grab those waters out of there and hydrate from those. So I went to the mini bar. Dude, I checked out. Guess how much each one of those look like? Hold on. So this is a normal bottle of water. Those Dasanis were about this big. How much do you think each one of those cost me?
$7.
$14.95
each. Oh my God!
$30 for a. $30. I was like,
oh
Vegas,
my God.
You suck, Vegas. It should be that should be a law. Like, it should just minibar extortion should just be a law, right?
You could go down to the bar and you could get a whiskey for like $2 more.
Yeah, that was like a third of the plane ticket.
Wow. I thought I got gouged buying 2 bottles of water in the food court. They were $5.25 a bottle.
Yeah.
And, by that time I'm like, yeah, but I really need the water,
Right.
So I'm okay. So the next day, I bought water at one of the grocery stores, and I had that stuff with me everywhere. It was in all my bags.
Live and learn. Next time, I'm stocking up my mini fridge.
Hydro pack.
God, man, I was like, it's just there's just wrong on so many levels. It's wrong on a guest hospitality level. It's like, you're supposed to be nice to me. I'm your guest. I'm not your victim.
No. And you know what? I agree. The cost of putting water in that hotel room is what? Pennies?
Nothing.
Pennies to put that bottle in there?
Yep.
Oh well. We got a year to figure it out.
Yeah, another year. Yeah, at least. All right. Well, let's dive in. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started, my friend. First of all, last episode was critique number 56. And we ended in a stalemate on that one in terms of who the winner, quote, winner, or our favorite was.
Oh, we did.
Yeah. So there were 2 images. And if you want to see those images or the images that were submitted, remember, you can always go to thisweekinphoto.com. In the menu bar, there's a critique button in there. Click on it. It'll show you all the critiques that we've ever done, right? So if you go in there, click on that critique button, look at number 56, and you'll see that we had a stalemate on Michael DeRay and Armando Brook in terms of, you liked, I forget which one you liked, but you liked one more than I liked one, and we couldn't come to an agreement. So we threw it out to the crowd and let the wisdom of the crowd select the winner. And it turns out Armando Brook got 15 likes, and Michael DeRay got 21 likes, right? So Armando's the winner, or I'm sorry, Michael DeRay. Michael DeRay is the winner of that contest. Thank you. I feel like that's fair now, right? I feel like, it wasn't just us subjectively picking a winner or me being authoritarian and picking the winner. We let democracy pick the winner. Democracy works sometimes, man.
That's right.
And then before we dive into this one, and I'll mention this again at the end, the topic for next week's, which will be critique number 58, the topic for next week's is abstract.
Yes. Abstract. Very excited about abstract.
Yeah, and let me share my screen real quick because I want to talk about that. Actually, so if I share my screen now, you will see that this is the post that had on thisweekinphoto.com that has our 2 finalists, and then the rest of the amazing submissions are all in the gallery in there. So you can go in there and click on those always, and just sort of check through them. But what I wanted to show was abstract. This is the definition. So Troy and I, you and I were sort of thinking through, we want to make sure that this is as fair as possible and that we're all working on the same page. So we wanted to get a definition of abstract from Wikipedia so that there's no like, well, I thought abstract meant this and you say it means that. So now there'll be no sort of discussion about it. So let me read the definition of abstract, which is the topic for next week's critique, number 58, according to Wikipedia. So abstract photography, sometimes called non-objective, experimental, conceptual, or concrete photography, is a means of depicting a visual image that does not have an immediate association with the object world and that has been created through the use of photographic equipment, processes, or materials. Right?
Love it.
So it's not real. It is something that does, like it says here, does not have the immediate association with the I think they want to say objective world, but we can say object world. But through the use of what are your thoughts, Troy? Do you agree with Wikipedia on abstract?
I do. I think that anything that doesn't immediately connect with an object is abstract.
Yeah.
So you could take a flower, you could photograph just a petal or a water droplet on there, like you might know what it is, or it makes you think. That to me would be the abstract of photography, which I am obsessed with that. So that's great.
Good. Yeah, you are Mr. Abstract. So so we will leave that there. So there you go. So if you want to read this, just go to Wikipedia and search for abstract photography, and you can see this. But that's the topic of next week's critique. Abstract photography. This last one that we did was portrait. So portrait, let me read the definition. And we should have read this at the beginning. We'll do this from now on for topics that are subjective, right? So portrait is, according to Wikipedia again, a portrait is a painting, photograph, sculpture, or other artistic representation of a person in which the face and its expression is predominant. Let me read that again. Artistic representation of a person in which the face and its expression is predominant. The intent is to display the likeness, personality, even the mood of the person. For this reason, in photography, a portrait is generally not a snapshot, but a composed image of a person in a still position. A portrait often shows a person looking directly at the painter or photographer in order to most successfully engage the subject with the viewer. So, that said, Troy Miller, we are I somewhat agree with those rules, right?
Right. I was going to say mostly agree.
But you know, I think we are in agreement that portraits don't necessarily have to show the face. You know, they can show parts of the body. I think they are meant to evoke a mood, but they have a definite subject in there. And I think, yeah, well, and I'll read the Wikipedia's idea of what a snapshot is as well. But they're not a snapshot. In other words, they're not like, oh, hey, there's my kid over there playing ball. Click. That's not necessarily a portrait. A portrait has some intent to it, right? So
right, and I think
probably part of it, the intent part of it. You agree with that?
I do. I think the intent is there, and I think that as long as that image, even if it's in part or whole of the face or body, is specific to that person, meaning that that is an image that is unique to that person, then it's a portrait. So it could be anything that's specific to that person. Otherwise, it would be abstract, right? We wouldn't know who it is.
Yeah, maybe. So that's just gonna make this one hard, right? Because some of the entries could fit into abstract, and they could fit into portraiture as well. So you know, this is gonna be interesting. See, these critiques are really good. They're very thought provoking, because it's like, what is a portrait? What is a snapshot? And let's see what Wikipedia says about snapshots. So Wikipedia says, brace yourself, because this is brutal.
It is a bit brutal. I didn't. We were both like, ooh.
This is what Wikipedia says a snapshot is in photography. A snapshot is a photograph that is shot spontaneously and quickly, and most often without artistic or journalistic intent. Snapshots are commonly technically imperfect or amateurish, out of focus, or poorly framed or composed. Common snapshot subjects include the events of everyday life, such as birthday parties and other celebrations, sunsets, children playing, group photos, pets, tourist attractions, and the like. So, you know, I don't know. I got to take exception with that, because
there's a lot in there to take exception with. Yeah,
that's definition of subjective right there, right? And that's one person who knows, you know, but. Yeah, I don't know. How would you, based on your almost nearly 30 years in the photography world?
Yeah.
How would you define a snapshot? Like, here's the context. How would you define a snapshot at, say, a wedding versus a portrait at a wedding? What's the difference?
I think that first line in that definition is a pretty good definition of a snapshot. It's taken without any creative or artistic intent. It's to document the moment. It's to sort of grab a memory of what's happening there. But it's not really done with the idea that, okay, you know, I got to get the composition just right, and I got to get the lighting just right, and I've got to get the mood and the exposure. You know, it's like, oh, I'm going to grab this scene and I'm going to share it with my friends, and I'm going to remember. Mm-hmm. Everything else, whether it's a pet or it's out of focus or whatever, I think those are just other aspects of a photograph.
I agree. And I would go so far as to say a snapshot is a memory. You're trying to capture a memory because you know, these things fail. So you're trying to capture a memory. You want to remember this thing or this situation or this event as you see it, and you know that your brain is not going to record it because it's not really important to your well-being to remember that.
Right.
So you can use external means, your camera, to record this thing, whereas a portrait or, you know, some sort of artistic interpretation has significant intent to it. But the fine line, like in much things artistically, the fine line is like in the Wikipedia definition, they're talking about sunsets are snapshots. That's bullshit, right? Because
yes,
you can take and we've seen many on the show, right? You can take a beautiful shot of a landscape sunset, and that's not a snapshot, right? That is artistic intent. No. You went out there, or even if you were just driving by and you saw it, it was serendipity, you know, and you pulled over, and you got the shot. That is art, you know, versus, oh, it's a sun and it goes down every day somewhere, or is literally going down every second some part of the planet, right? So
right. Well, you know, if we took that definition literally, wouldn't Moonrise over Hernandez by Ansel Adams, wouldn't that be a snapshot?
Snapshot, right?
I mean, that's not fair.
Ansel Adams, you're a hack, man. You're doing snapshots.
Yeah, forget it. It's no good.
According to Wikipedia. Come on, Wikipedia. Come on. So
I don't know.
Maybe one of our members, Stephen Sharf, I'm talking to you, needs to go into Wikipedia and rewrite that snapshot definition, because I think that's erroneous. So
Right. That's our new calling, is to fix all the photographic definitions in Wikipedia.
why not? Why not? You know, or else we're gonna have a bunch of people running around that think Wikipedia is the end all be all, you know, and saying, "Oh, I did this great award winning shot of the sunset, but it's just a snapshot, so I'm not gonna submit it."
I'm going to use that though. Next time I'm in an image competition, I'll be like, yeah, you know, this is a snapshot, you know, according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, according to some random person. So,
Yeah.
and then I know we're dragging on, but we had a lot of housekeeping to do here. I wanted to address a comment that Stephen Sharf posted last week in regards to last week's critique and my usage of the phrase name dropping. So within there, and I'm going to take you off the screen, Troy, so you're not culpable. And I'll bring you back on because I want to get your thoughts on this. So here's where I stand on the whole name dropping issue. Just to set it up, there was a one of the captions I think Stephen Sharf wrote. He referred to some Hollywood actors from, you know, a bygone era back in the day that were very popular, etc. And I made the comment in the critique that was name dropping, and I want to explain that and explain my position of it, because I still do think that's a form of name dropping. So the context for me was that, if you, in this, I think this happens a lot in just everyday life, when people that highly intelligent people use phrases or industry jargon or names or, you know, other data, let's call it, that aren't mainstream or well known or in the current zeitgeist, let's say, then they're making, either consciously or subconsciously, the assumption that everyone that's listening or reading what they're saying knows or cares about what they're talking about. In other words, so if you mention, you know, Clark Gable from back in the day, who's a well-known actor, but some younger person may not know who Clark Gable is, but you are speaking about them in the vernacular of course, you should know who Clark Gable is because he's famous, you know, and you're an idiot if you don't know who Clark Gable is. Even if you don't say you're an idiot, that's kind of the assumption. So that was the impetus of the whole name dropping comment. And conversely, if, you know, a younger person from today drops the artist's name Cardi B, right, is a famous rap artist, and someone that's out of that genre or out of that demographic has no idea who Cardi B is, and that young person is like, geez, you're out of touch. You have no idea what's going on in the world. or they use it in a sentence where, you know, it's like, of course you should know who Cardi B is. She sold millions of albums and she hosted this and all, you know, all that stuff. And you don't know that has the results or the side effect of making you feel, even if a little bit, just inferior to that person. And some people, not saying that that's the intent, but some people are either consciously or subconsciously looking for that, you know, hey, I know more than you, you know, so I'm going to use these words and these phrases and these names about people who you may or may not know about, because the assumption is you should know about them. So hence the name dropping. So what I try to do, and I do it too, I'm guilty of it, you know, I'll use industry jargon with people who don't know industry jargon. My girlfriend will use industry jargon for her line of work, which is healthcare. And she'll just do it on the fly. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. What is that acronym? You know, and I'll be talking about f-stops and shutter speeds, and she'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. What is that? You know? So, yeah, I think part of the human condition is to do that, but it's also to be cognizant of the fact that you're doing that and to not use industry jargon or translate it. Like, in other words, if you're talking about, you know, a piece of photography and you're trying to describe the importance of it, and submitting it in a certain category and saying that it's important because of X, Y, and Z, I think the onus is on you as a submitter to define those names in there. You know, instead of just saying, "Hey, John Doe, this reminds me of John Doe from the movie X, Y, and Z." So you're making the assumption that everyone knows who John Doe and the movie X, Y, and Z is. So I would just add another sentence in there that says, "This is John Doe from the movie X, Y, and Z. this was a famous movie back in 1945 that you may not have heard about, but it went on to, it's kind of equivalent to, Raiders of the Lost Ark in the 80s in terms of its popularity or whatever. Just give some context and not make the assumption that everyone knows who you're talking about. So in the negative connotation of name dropping, I'd say, name dropping, say in Hollywood or Silicon Valley, is when you're on the fly, you're like, hey, I was having drinks with Elon Musk the other day, that's name dropping. Or in Hollywood, hey, I'm so tired, I got to get up in the morning because I got to do this new Avengers movie. That's name dropping at its purest intent. My usage of it was more of, saying things or using phrases or names that not everyone is necessarily familiar with. So that's my rant. That's my answer. Stephen Scharf, that is why all that I just said would have caused carpal tunnel, which is why I did not want to type it. and I just got new glasses. I'm still trying to get used to them. But I did not want to put all that and type it all up. But I figured this would be the best way for me to emote and say exactly how I felt about the sort of name dropping issue/topic. I'm curious to know what you think about what I said. I'm sure you're not going to be shy and you're going to let me know in the comments. So I'm looking forward to a healthy dialogue on the topic of name dropping. Also, other TWiP members, if you have a differing opinion on name dropping or think it should be called something else, sound off in the comments for this episode. Let me know in TWiP Pro, and we'll have a healthy and productive conversation about it. Troy Miller, what about you, man? Now I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you think? Name dropping. Am I right or am I wrong?
I think that context is what matters with the name dropping idea. I think that if you're going to use names, you're going to use terms, you're going to use context that other people don't understand. It's just simply a stream of consciousness that we may have as we're sharing information, and we just want to make sure everybody else is keeping up. Yeah. It doesn't bother me, but I think that what's unfortunate is I may not know who you're talking about. Right. So I'm not following along with you. So you were talking about some artist. I have no idea who that person is. Mm-hmm. So if you said, oh, hey, this is great, you need to check this out, or I saw them, I'd be like, okay, whatever, because I'm not going to get it. So I don't think that's
about you're a big EDM fan, right? So if you hey man, Tiesto's playing at the MGM, and I'm like, is that ballet?
Yeah. Right. I think there's a context of name dropping that is negative, and I think maybe that's semantics, right? When we use the term name dropping, to me it comes across as oh, that was done intentionally to be negative. And I don't think a lot of times it is. I think sometimes it's just, we use terms or words or things that other people can't keep up with. So it just behooves us as the communicators to make sure that people understand what we're talking about. So it doesn't bother me. I mean, I just kind of see it as, a stream of consciousness from somebody else. And if they really don't want me to follow along, okay, you're not defining it for me. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it goes back to, just language and communication with each other. So if your goal is to confuse and bewilder me, then use phrases and words and things that I don't know, or that you don't know that I know, and then if I fire back at you with, oh yes, of course, I understand what you said because I read a book on that or whatever, then it's like, oh, he knew that. Or just define what you're saying, or don't use jargon, right? Just I don't know. That's me, but I'm opinionated because I'm getting older. There's grays in there and everything. So, yeah, I'm getting older now and getting I have thoughts on things, as many people around me will tell you. Speaking of thoughts on things, I think it's time to dive into the critique finally. What do you think?
I think we should. Yeah, we've got a lot to go through. Yeah,
because we're only 24 minutes into the episode here, and we haven't said anything about any of the shots in the
But we've defined portrait and snapshot and name dropping and photojournalism and
hey, that's what this show's all about, is getting.
That's a whole TWiP episode right there.
It totally is. In fact, I may make it a TWiP episode. Why not? Right? Why not? Get some other opinions in there. The name dropping show. All right, let's do this, man. Let me go to the top here. Let me bring up TWiP Pro. Screen. Here we go. Hey, and we're even on the screen here in the bottom left corner. See that? All right, so here we go. The first one is by Jim Peters, the first submission. Hey, Jim Peters. Remember, this is all under the portraiture category. So Jim Peters says, contemplating the story, shot with his Pentax K3 II or 2, using a DA 70 millimeter f2.4 at 1/60th of a second, racked out to f3.2. Let's bring that up.
Right.
All right, there we go.
Here we go.
Portraiture. Remember, portraiture. What do you think?
This is very cute. Very cute shot. I think that we have some distracting elements in this. I mean, I'm good with this as being a portrait. It shows a nice, beautiful profile of this young lady. The hands and the newspaper and stuff going on in the background, it's very distracting. So I think if we were to crop that, bring in more tight on her face, and maybe some more dodging and burning intentional lighting into the face would increase the impact of this image in, as a portrait, as a storytelling image. Mm-hmm. But very, very cute though.
I agree. Yeah, and God, I got Wikipedia in my head now, so now I'm like filtering it through Wikipedia. I think this is a portrait, though. I mean, I think there's a category for non-posed, turned 3/4 towards the camera, looking directly into the lens, head tilted. There's a category for portraiture that is also slightly photojournalistic and serendipitous. Where the subject didn't necessarily know that the camera was making a portrait of them. So
right. Now, in competition, portrait is defined as that you have absolute control over the subject, the clothing, the hair, the lighting, the location. So in competition, it's a very different set of guidelines that we would look at an image like this. We would say, well, you've got this yellow thing in the background that's distracting. The light is from above. It's not from the side. It's not traditional portrait lighting. It's not a pure profile. Those things don't always have to apply to everybody, but just coming from somebody who does some judging in competitions, that's much more strict guidelines.
Well,
probably not.
Again. It's intent.
It's intent, yeah, and probably not bad to look at, because if you learn what those strict guidelines are, it can help you even in some of the most casual portraiture.
Yep, I agree. Very cool. All right, Jim Peters, thank you so much for your submission. Coming up next, Mike Doran's in the house. Yeah, Mike says, Mike Doran or Mike Doran? I'm going to go with Doran. Mike, you can tell me what the correct pronunciation is while I move palettes around so I can read this. It says, this image was created on the first day of American Super Camp in Santa Rosa. I've been there. Kelsey was hanging out while watching the final minutes of the session. I used the Olympus EM1X and a 12-40 2.8. The settings were ISO 1600 at f2.8 at 1/500th of a second. All right, here's your portrait. Let's bring this up.
There we go. I don't know. Is this a portrait? I mean, is it intentional? Is it intentionally lit? Is it intentional in the idea that you're going after to tell the story of this person? I think it certainly fits in the portrait category, because we get to see her face, her expression. We get to see the story. Yep. The harsh lighting can be tough in a portrait situation like this, because it's specular and we don't have
as a portrait photographer. I mean, you're a wedding and portrait photographer by trade, right? So looking at this shot, could one of the metrics be, is this frameable? Like, would you frame it and hang it on the wall, and would it be out of place framed and hung on the wall versus some of the other submissions?
Well, anything could be framed and hung on the wall. I see everything from
what size frame, right? So would this be a
4x6
hung on the wall, a 5x7 on the wall, or could it be a poster hung on the wall, right?
Right. Now, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a beautiful young lady. It's a sharp portrait. There's good light in her face and her eyes, mm-hmm. but we don't have portrait lighting in the sense that it wasn't lit intentionally to represent her in that space. So in the confines of what a portrait is, I mean, there's loose definitions and tight definitions. that's always going to be our challenge, right? Like how
because we didn't give any strict Wikipedia.
Right.
Sage Wikipedia guidelines for this week, right? So we're going to go with loose definitions, right?
Right. Yep. So yeah, this is, a little crop up from the bottom, a little tighter crop on the sides to clean up the frame a little bit, and I think you're styling it. Dodge down or fix those highlights a little bit, on her face. I think she would be happier to have that, and I think you got a really solid portrait.
Yep. Very cool.
And she looks very cozy in that big blanket.
Yeah. And Mike just shot this too, right? In 2019. That with the Olympus. Oh, I want to know about that camera he shot this with, by the way. Not that I care that much about gear, but come on.
Sure.
The E1X, I want to know about it. So, all right, next one is Kai Grodert, and Kai says, Foggy Beach. Most of my portrait work is limited to family and friends. He posted this yesterday. Look at that. You know what I like most about this shot? I like the simplicity of the background, that it's fogged in. So I kind of, being from the Bay Area, I'm very familiar with the fog monster. Right? So
yeah, right.
The fog monster is in effect here. But also like the fact that there's no face in here, and the hat is obscuring the child's face. So you almost have to guess kind of what this subject looks like. But this kid is in heaven here playing, and that's the giant sandbox, right? So, no, I dig it. I also like the composition with the subject a little bit off to the right of the frame there, and I like how simple it is, and I like the choice of depth of field where it's right on the subject and then falls off almost immediately after the subject, and the choice of depth of field meets the fog monster. So you've got fog and shallow depth of field working to make this subject popped right out of the frame. So what do you think?
This is very, very stylistic Kai. Very clean, very simple. The beautiful composition, the harmony of colors. The child has. I mean, even the toy is right in the same color palette. That's so awesome. So we have these multiple tones that are playing off each other. The composition is fantastic, and I would say this is one of those exceptions to the general rule is we can't see the face, and I love that. And we don't need to know that there's this intent expression underneath that hat, just trying to dig, in the moment, which is fantastic.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, I love it.
I like it too. All right.
Yeah. I wonder if he did a time lapse of this. Did you do a time lapse?
Yeah, Kai. Yeah, let us know. All right.
He does time lapses of everything. It's awesome.
Let's move on to the next image here. Let's see. All right. So the next shot up is from Laura Patton. She says, "Yep, I cropped off the head. We all break the rules sometimes." They know you, man. They know you.
Yeah.
I love our members. Our members are fantastic. This is a great shot. I love the processing on this. I love because this is one of those shots you got to look at it for a second, and it draws you in, right? Because you want to see the art, the tattoo art, and then the bandaged up knuckles just look menacing. And this just looks like a tough person, right? This is like a tough person. Even the ring, got to take off my ring because I put it on this chain every time I bash somebody. And then I put my ring back on after I'm finished pummeling my intended victim. No, this is really cool. And I know this shot, I would imagine the subject wants the shot if they don't have it already. And this is one of those that I'd if I were them, I'd print and hang it in my home or wherever, because this is, this speaks to us a part of this person's personality very clearly and distinctly. What do you think? Right.
And because, there's so much uniqueness going on in here with the tattoos and the necklace and the ring. It's clearly a portrait, and I love the creativity that's going on in here. I like how the hands are the brighter spots in the image, whether that was done through dodging and burning, or just maybe the light and the whiteness of the tape and the gauze. For me, I think that the necklace and the ring really make this image one step better because that's such a personal element to this person. that I don't need to see the face. That to me, that's the hook right there. So this is, I love this. I love this image.
Yeah, I do too. It almost makes you wanna. It makes me want to, like, in my own head, figure out what the face is. You know, who is this? This is like a bearded kind of biker guy, you know, or what? So I kind of fill in the blanks automatically of what the expression, even the expression. I feel like, you know, he's sitting there at the ready, you know, with kind of a grimaced, menacing look on his face, looking dead at you. And, you know, this is kind of the position you don't want to find yourself in Vegas, right here.
Oh, yeah, I mean, for most of us, we never, not, you know, I don't ever want to get in a ring. I don't ever want to do that. So, yeah. If you find yourself in this position in Vegas, you failed. You just, it's over. Right.
It's over.
Right. No, Laura, this is great. Yeah, this is fantastic. This is certainly one of my favorites.
Yeah. Great work, Laura. Thank you so much. All right. Next shot is Trey Nelson. Trey says, let me bring this up over here. Trey says, it seems to be that every 5 years or so I get in front of the camera, or in this case, the mirror. I'm much more comfortable behind the camera, but I've seen exercises online where photographers and models will reverse roles. I don't see myself doing that, but it's interesting from a distance. He shot this photo with his Leica M9. We had a discussion about Leica. His Leica M9 with a Zeiss Planar ZM50. I'm guessing that's a f2.0 lens, 50 millimeter f2.0 lens. All right, let's bring this up.
Yeah, you know, I would say to anybody that if you're a photographer, put yourself on the other side of the camera. It makes a huge difference in how you can relate to your subjects. It makes a big difference. So, yeah. I like the shot. This is definitely a portrait, right? So it fits in the portraiture category, and it's eliciting emotion. I think it's technically good, right? I mean, it's in focus. This is a portrait. He's looking directly at the camera. This could be a Leica ad almost, you know, right?
For the M9. For people that have the means to buy overpriced cameras. Look at this. I'm just kidding, Leica. I'm just kidding. These are great cameras. I'm just jealous because I can't afford one. But this is fantastic. What do you think?
I dig it. You know, it's such a powerful shot. I love the fact that his eye is in focus. The camera's slightly out. His hands are out even more. I wish the hands were burned down a little bit because they're too close to the light source. So that's drawing my attention away from his face. And I actually think that if you were to crop this like just below his nose and make it horizontal and bring down the top a little bit, so it's more of a horizontal, make a 16:9 type crop.
Yeah.
I think it would be a lot more powerful.
So like crop just below his nose and maybe some of the head off at the top.
And then you'll have the lens will sort of be on camera left, like on a third, and his eye will be on camera right on that third. And then you've got that primary and secondary hook in the image. And I think it would be a very powerful draw. But this is really neat. This is definitely a classy portrait of him. I like it. It. Good self-portrait.
Yeah, absolutely, and a great avatar as well, right? This would be the perfect photographer's avatar.
Yeah, you could crop that square and put the lens in the lower left-hand corner, and he'd have this nice, awesome square avatar. That'd be great.
Yeah, good shot. Awesome. Thanks for submitting this, Trey. This is fantastic.
Yeah, and for showing us that you have an M9.
Yeah, exactly. Leica. We did a show way back in the day called Leica or Leave It. Doug Kay and I were talking about the Leica look, and is it a real thing? You know, the look that you get out of Leica is much like what Fuji people say about the Fuji look. You know, it's sort of this thing you can't put your finger on. So I would encourage you to get on This Week in Photo and search for Leica or Leave It, and you'll see what we had to say about that. This next shot is by Stephen Sharf. Nice. Stephen Sharf, Clayton Bailey robot sculptor. Clayton Bailey at his desk at the Bailey Art Museum, Crockett, California. Bailey is well known for his museum of robot sculptures. This is a Fuji X-T1 18 to 55 millimeter lens, f2.8 to 4. He shot this at 1/300th of a second. Lens was racked to f3.6, ISO 1600 conversion, and the software that Troy hates, Capture One.
Don't say that.
And edited in Photoshop. I'm just kidding. You love Capture One.
Oh, yeah. Somebody's going to grab that soundbite out of context and be like, Troy hates Capture One. Troy.
Yes. Yeah. You get a letter, a cease and desist from Phase One.
Yeah.
All right. Let's bring this up. Nice.
No, I do like this.
Mm-hmm. Like these kind of shots just remind me of like, you could almost feel that this person has lived life, right? And is surrounded by a small little snapshot of that life that he's lived. Right?
Yep.
And then the character in his face with the unique sort of styling of the mustachioed. I don't know. Is that a mustache or a beard or both? Right. Mustachioed?
No,
it's a mustachioed right there, or a beard stash or something.
Oh man.
I'm jealous because I don't have the DNA to create that kind of facial hair.
Right.
But that's cool. No, I like it. And he's like just sort of nestled right in the middle. I'm curious to know what you think about this, because you always have an opinion when people do these sorts of framing and key lining implementations of their final submissions. Like, what do you think about that and the shot itself?
I love the presentation. I think that, when you have a finished image like this, where you put a key line on a black background, it feels very finished. Mm-hmm. And we're so used to just seeing images all the time, like in our phone, on the web, and they're seamless. They go right to the edge. And I like it when they're finished. Like, it's almost like they're framed, Yeah. So I love any type of finish like that, especially a subtle one and traditional like this, where it's black and then a little white key line.
Yeah. Sounds like you're peering through a window at him, right? Like you're walking down the street and he's just sitting there at his desk, and he happened to look up while you were walking by, and you guys connected eyeballs for a split second. Yeah.
Right. There's, images like this, environmental portraits, are really quite challenging for lighting and composition and the room and the space in the room, moving objects, trying not to have anything distracting. I think that, Stephen, you did a fantastic job here. I wish the cup was out of the lower right-hand corner, and I wish that his head was a little bit more centered. I also wish that his body language was a little bit more lively, if you will, or had a little bit of like something in his hand, like a gadget or a trinket. Because without the description, I wouldn't know what he's doing. Mm-hmm, right? I wouldn't know the story of this person. Now that's getting a lot of nitpicky. For what's given here, though, I love that this fact is his head is in a clean space. It's not against the bookshelf there. It's with the environment that it's in. It's a fantastic environmental portrait, and I mean, I really dig it. His eyes are connecting. He's got a bunch of stuff on the shelf. I want to know what it all is. I'm intrigued. Yeah. I'm very intrigued. Yeah.
Same here. Yeah, I'm intrigued to know what those things at the top are. The top left. These look like little faces on those little things.
Yeah. But see,
I want to meet this guy. I want to know what's going on in this shot.
Right, and that's an amazing element for a portrait, especially environmental portrait, is that it makes us want to ask more questions about this person. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I feel like there's an article that needs to go with this guy so I can know more about him.
Yeah. No, for sure, absolutely. And that sort of goes. That's a good point you bring up, because a lot of portraits, and even the ones that we've looked at already, they need that story to go with them, the words, or at least some sort of narration to go with them, to put you in that place. And I wonder why more photographers don't do that, right? Because these days you can, even if it's Instagram, you can post a still image and from a video, or just create a video from a still image and put a soundtrack behind it, where you'd say, hey, this is so and so, and I shot him so and so. It would appear in the social media network as a video, but it would have an audio or voiceover track associated with it. Or even NPR-esque not sound, right? Where, you hear birds chirping in the background of a shot that was, or seagulls cooing on a beach, scene or something like that.
Yeah. Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah. Michael Couts, are you listening to this? This is a good idea for you, my friend, for your street art.
There you go. All right. Moving right along. Thank you, Stephen Sharf. All right. We have a few to go through. All right. Thomas Aaron is up next. Thomas Aaron says, this is a self-portrait. I guess I'll call it End of Hunt. All right, so I'm guessing this is this dog, or Thomas's dog has passed away, and this is a sort of photograph in tribute to that dog.
Mm-hmm. You know, these images are tough because, you know, the composite element is difficult to do in a way that, you know, ties into a photographic story, you know, with a silhouetted, shaded element of the dog that's in there. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get the story and I love what he's telling. I'm not a composite artist, so I don't know how I would do it better. So I don't really have a critique there. The self-portrait is fantastic. I love the snow. I love the grain. I love the black and white, the head down, the hat covering his face, and the whole story element of it is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What about the processing of the image? What are your thoughts on that? From putting on, you know, taking the emotion out of the photo and looking at it, you know, technically, is the sort of the low contrast look, is that appropriate for this kind of image?
I think so. Yeah, I think it tells a really good story. I think it makes it feel cold. It makes it feel, you know, very, very quiet. Not very lively, and maybe, you know, the way that it's titled, it's a somber moment. So you're telling a story through the emotion, or you're telling an emotional story, or conveying emotion through the context of your image, right? Through the colors or the brightness or the contrast. If this was really punchy, it would have a different feel. And, you know, it looks like it's snowing. It's probably overcast. So I think it fits. It's very appropriate.
I agree. I think part of his processing, and Thomas, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the processing and the low contrast look of this sort of leads to the emotional nature of this, you know, where you feel like, you know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you may feel like life has a little less contrast now that this pup is missing from it. Right. So, you know, during this period of mourning, this is how I was feeling, kind of thing.
Right. No, and it works very well. Yeah, it's very well done. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. It tells a good story.
Yep. Love it. Cool. I think this whole theme thing is working out. What do you think, Troy Miller?
I dig it. I do. I really do. Because it's challenging too, and I hope, and we can get some feedback in the TWiP community, but I hope that this is encouraging people, you know, to think differently than maybe what they would regularly, you know, and that's the goal, is to challenge all of us to be better and to be more creative and, you know, get into styles that we're not used to. So I like it a lot.
Yep. All right. This next shot is Armando Brook. He says, this portrait I took of my American nephew 3 years ago was without any previous preparation. He was just playing in the swimming pool. Look at those colors. Those colors.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. You can just, you know, I can just see that this kid only held still for a fraction of a second, right? Like they don't hold still for long.
And that was only because he was curious about what Armando was doing.
Right. Armando had like a popsicle, be like, okay.
Yeah. Hey, you want some candy? Huh? Click.
This is great. Yeah. This is really great. This has some lighting challenges for the portrait element, and that is, you know, the top of his head is so bright because we're outside. So I think some dodging and burning, right? So to just bring the head down a little bit, open up the face a tad, I think that would really draw ourselves into his eyes. And he's got these gorgeous eyes. The eyes are really just popping in this image, and I'd like to see that more.
Yeah, his eyes are like metallic blue or something. Yep, love it. Very nice portrait. Again, I could see that one on the wall for sure.
Oh, yeah. And I like how we go from Thomas Aaron, he's in the snow, to Armando, and there's a little kid in the water.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. This one's going to be tough, man. This next one. This is very Tim Engel. It's of me.
Oh, look at that.
Natural light portrait of a model. That's a lie. That is not a model. That is me.
It looks like a model. I like it.
He shot this with his 85 millimeter f2.8, 1/320th of a second, ISO 400. All right, let's bring this up.
Didn't crop your head off. Left in most of your right arm. The left arm is appropriately cropped. I dig it.
Yeah, and this was me getting a feel for how Tim shoots, because, you know, he had me put my weight on my front leg and bend over and lean into the camera. That, you know, The whole
Drop
9
the
yards
shoulder.
there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
You are hunched a little bit, though. I don't know.
Well, because I have such broad shoulders, it's hard to diminish that.
Support all that weight. Yeah. Yeah.
I've dug this shot. I've actually used this shot in many places as my avatar shot, because it's this is one of the, I would argue that this is probably one of the best shots I've ever had that Tim Ingle shot. And I told Tim, when he shot it, because he gave me the raw files graciously and everything, and I thought it was just underexposed a little bit, from a darkness standpoint, because it has me sort of fading into the black background. But when you bring it up like a stop or so, I pop out of there a little bit more, and you can see me. I'm curious to know what you think about it from a portraiture artist standpoint.
I really like it. I mean, I love all the dark tones. I think that the overall mood of the image is great. I like things like that where there's a darker mood.
It's moody. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I really do. I mean, there's plenty of light in your face. Your eyes stand out. We have a nice key light over your left shoulder, camera right, just reflecting on the side of your face. That's giving us dimension.
Yep.
I think it's a powerful image. I love the fact that there's eye contact. You're looking right into the lens, and that's not easy to do as a subject, because oftentimes you're listening to direction, you're paying attention, you're leaning, you're twisting, you're lift your chin, turn your head, and then eye contact. So that shows that Tim's doing his job, and that you as the model are paying attention, and you're there. So I think it's great. Yeah,
he was able to
really good.
He was able to pull out my "Can I buy you a drink?" look. So
No, this is your welcome to TWiP.
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen right there. And then you stand up and you walk out, and the camera pans back, and you're standing up on a bluff in a big castle, and
a little dry ice flowing on my feet.
Yeah.
No, but this is classic Tim Ingle. It was a pleasure to watch him at work doing this and see how quickly he's able to pull off a shot like this. With such aptitude, and he handled everything in there. He's just sit there, turn like this, boom, 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 click, 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 got it.
Yep. Direction of lines, posing, body language, using all the triangles, bending elbows. Those are all just hints of a comfortable, idealistic portrait. Yeah.
Yep. Very nice. I think this was shot maybe 6 months or so before the TWiP Pro community was left the birth canal. So this is...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is a while ago. Very cool. Tim Ingle, thank you so much, man. Thank you for taking that shot, and thank you for submitting it and trying to embarrass me. I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I know you, man. I know you, Tim Ingle.
Double points for Tim.
I know exactly what he's doing. All right, James Glennie's up next. And James says, from an engagement shoot I did for two very dear friends. This was with his Canon 6D 7200mm f2.8 lens at 200mm f2.8, ISO 250 at 1/400th of a second. Look at that.
That's great.
All right. That's a portrait right there.
Yep. Yeah, that is great. I mean, you've captured emotion. You've got, the hands, the connection to the bodies. I mean, that's fantastic. Hands can be really tough too. If they're distorted or they're not laid properly, it looks odd. We know how hands should look, so they handle the hands really well. I tend to be overly obsessed with where the hands need to be. Yeah. And I love his facial expression. That whole thing. That's really great. So this is very well done.
Now, what about the pole growing out of the back of her back there? You care about that? Should he have taken that out, or does it bother you?
Well, yes, it bothers me. But I also understand that in the environment of an engagement session, you don't always have the timing to set them up, because engagement is different than, say, a traditional portrait session. Engagement, for me, I like to let the couples play and move and interact. So I try to get the cleanest background I can, but sometimes those elements pop in. I may have shot this shot and then moved to the left and down a little bit to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. But maybe that timing was gone, right? The kiss was gone or the smile was gone. So, ideally, if it wasn't there, that would be best. But it's a non-issue. The couple certainly won't see it. That'll never be an issue for them. They're only looking at their faces.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right.
Good job, James. I like it.
Yep, I like it too. James Glennie, thank you, sir. All right, next shot is from, oh God, Troy Miller. Wait, was that my inner monologue? Oh, I gotta control it.
I don't have any. Oh, I should have put in the portrait that Kira took of me. See, shoot.
There you go. All right, well. This is a portrait of a very young man and his best friend. And yes, yep. I know I cropped off his head. You're breaking the rules here. Yep. Right, let's bring this up.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us what you're thinking. I can't critique this, and you're disqualified from winning anything.
Yeah. Well, this is definitely one of my favorite portraits that I've taken. I have photographed this young man since he was a newborn, and he was very much into his trumpet. I mean, his name is Riley. He was very much into his musical instrument, and I thought it was appropriate. I mean, it was with him all the time.
Wow. And
it just felt that I really was just taking a picture of that. So really, this is a portrait of the trumpet more than anything else.
Wow. Yeah, and is it? I guess that's a good question. So, can you take portraits? I guess you can, as you've sort of illustrated here. But is it technically portraiture if it's of an inanimate object?
Well, not according to Wikipedia,
right?
But I mean, we did suggest that people try to break the rules and step outside the normal boundaries when we gave this theme assignment. And I thought, this for me is that objects sometimes can be very important to us and part of who we are, part of what we do on a daily basis, right? And so for him, that musical instrument was his life. Mom was very much like, I need to make sure we get a shot of that. It's important to him. So I think you can have that in there. They can be family members, right? I mean, it's whatever you find to be important to you.
Yeah. I know. I dig this. I like the processing that you did on this, and I like the simplicity of the division into 4 parts, really, right? So you have the sky, the background, and then the foreground where he's standing, and then the subject himself off to the left there. So yeah, right. Definitely is thought-provoking, and it makes you think. It makes you think what's going on. Clearly, this is somebody who knows how to play the trumpet, right? Because even how he's holding it with his middle finger in there, he's definitely holding it like a trumpet. Somebody that has played many a note on that thing.
Yeah. And to be fair, everybody understands, I did not get a merit for this print when I submitted it. They did not like it because they said I cut his head off and a portrait needs to have somebody's face. So it did not do well.
Was this the Wikipedia judging panel?
No, these are just, your traditional, local judges. But, I still like it. And I think you need to fight for your images. So even though they don't like it, I still loved it. So.
Yeah. Oh, good. That's what's important at the end of the day, right? Do you like the image? All right. Moving right along. All right. So the next image is from Michael Rhino. Okay, so Michael Rhino says, a portrait of a horse taken in West Cliff, Colorado with a Nikon D850 Tamron 7200 f5.0 ISO 100 shutter at 1/1250th of a second, black and white conversion using Nik Silver FX Pro 2. Let's bring this up. Wow, look at that.
That is beautiful.
Horses are so amazing.
I know. He wants to bite me. I can tell.
Yeah, he's looking at you. I bite you.
Horses are one of those animals that I don't understand real well. So they're big and powerful and they scare me a little bit, right? I mean, just because I don't. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of respect. I know somebody who knows horses can be like, oh, no, he's happy. Look, his ears are going this. I don't see any of that.
I see hooves and broken bones on me. Right? No, horses. Yeah, I treat any. Well, all animals, but especially the ones that are larger in body mass than me and unpredictable, in some ways.
Right.
I just treat them, very respectfully. So,
yeah.
Like, but look at him in the eye. Is it okay if I move over here now? Is that going to spook you?
I'm not edible.
Yes, I am not a threat. I am not a threat. So.
Right.
But look at that hair. That looks. Troy, you posted a picture a while back. Back in the days when you had hair like that. You remember that picture you posted?
Yeah. Kind of regretting that now, but yeah.
You did, man. That was awesome. But it was black. He had black hair, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Hey, I can't talk. Mine's gone too, so it's okay. But I shave mine off every couple days. So. Yeah. But what do you think of the shot? So portraiture. We have our subject looking at the camera.
We do,
I think making eye contact with the camera, right?
Yeah, and for an animal, with like dogs and horses, where they have a long face, it's really nice to have them in focus from nose tip, at least to eyes, ears included if possible. And that is done exceptionally well here. And then the neck is slightly out of focus. So we have really good use of depth of field. The lighting is really nice. Yeah. This is a nice broad light coming in from camera, right? So I love it. My only nit is to clone out those two little wild hairs
at the
coming
top?
up off. Yeah. Just for aesthetics.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. Those don't bother me that much because it kind of gives you more of a feel of the wiry texture of the horse's hair. But I was going to say I'd like to have just a skosh more breathing room on the left side of the frame.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah,
just
a little bit more. Yeah, maybe a little bit,
and maybe on the bottom too, because the horse's mouth is very close to the edge of the frame down there. But no, I like this. This is really, really nice.
Yeah, tight crops, whether it's intentional or not, add tension to the image. So anytime you want to add tension, just crop in tighter. So in this case, we don't need the tension. So a little bit more airy space would be nice.
Yep. Especially because you have such a majestic background. It looks like for where this horse is. Yeah. All right, moving right along. This is going to be one of our longer critiques because we spent so much time at the top with all that housekeeping. Next one is Steve Dickerson. Steve Dickerson says, my submission for the portrait theme. It was a windy day, so we went with it. Shot this with his Olympus EM5 12-40 Pro at 32mm f4, 1/1000th of a second, ISO 200. Bring that up. You know what this shot, when I first shot this, what this reminded me of, right? I don't know if you're old
Medusa?
enough. No. I don't know if you're old enough to remember this. Is it the Venus on? Remember back in the day? I forget what version of Adobe Illustrator it was, but they had this. The launch screen was a photo like this, an illustration.
Now, how am I going to remember that?
Because you've been in this career for what, 975 years. I'm just saying.
Illustrator. You said Adobe Illustrator.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You don't have any design background. Ask Kira. She'll know.
She might know. Yeah. I don't know.
No, it had a shot. TWiP Pro members, sound off if you remember the shot from the Adobe Illustrator splash screen that is reminiscent of this image. Let me know.
Maybe you can find a screenshot of it and post it for us.
Yeah, I'll post it. Yeah, I'll post it. What are your thoughts on this as a portrait?
I dig it. I'm very much a non-traditionalist. I mean, I realize that there's some rules and guidelines that I start out with. But I love anytime something that isn't traditional or within the confines of those rules work. And for me, this really works. I love the triangles of the background, the leading lines, the highlight, and their hair blowing to camera right into that space. To me, this is fantastic. This lower right-hand corner, you could put copy for just about any company that's hip and cool, and it would work. This is nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with all that. It's very nice. Yeah, I thought you were going to say something about the dark lower right-hand corner, but you didn't. So
no, because it's a layer of colors, so a layer of tones. Like her hair is dark, then her face, then the middle, and then the lower right. So we've got dark, light, or lighter, and then dark. So like there's layers of tone in there. I really like it. If I would have shot this of a client, I would show it to him for sure.
Really nice.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that says a lot because you're selling your photography, and
Oh yeah,
you have an expectation. If it makes it to the client's eyes from your standpoint, then you're expecting them to purchase it, right?
Yeah, and whether they purchase it or not, I mean, I'm putting it out there for them and saying, look, this is the best of the best from your day, and I'm proud of these. I stand behind this image, and this is an image that I would show my client. Absolutely.
All right, cool. All right, Steve, high praise. High praise. All right, moving right along. Craig Stamfley's in the house. Portrait theme. He calls this one
Portrait theme. That's what he named it.
That's what he named it. Yeah, portrait theme. Yeah, this reminds me of like Burning Man, or like Burning Man meets Beyond Thunderdome. Mad Max.
Now this would work for the next theme.
Abstract. Yeah,
probably better than portrait. But I love that. I love that. Very abstract though. Very abstract.
Yeah, I agree. This is more abstract. This is something you don't see every day. Definitely.
No, and this is one of those kind of places that if we were out, walking the town or the city, or we came across this, all my friends and family would know Troy's going to be here for like 4 hours. Exactly. We'll just come back and get in, bring him a sandwich, make sure he has water, because what a freaking cool location.
I agree. Yeah. I love this shot just generally. One of the things I like about this shot is the lack of any details that definitively give you an idea as to scale. Because this thing could be 100 feet tall or 50 feet tall. You have no idea how big this thing is when you look at it.
Right. And what I love and I really appreciate what Craig did with this shot is it's intentionally centered. It's balanced. The background, the angles, everything. That's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant, and that's fantastic. I would add a couple little nits just to take it one more step further. So for me, if this was entered in competition and this was like an illustrative or something like that, I would be in the high 80s, maybe even touching the 90s to take it much higher. I would remove the non-smoking or whatever sign that is in the lower right-hand corner, and I would get rid of all the little tiny white verticals, whatever those little specks are in the window. I would try to clean those up and make them look more like just nice cleaned windows. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Yeah, and again, this is minute, but I think they're distracting. I think those little white, but it probably looks like they're probably lights in the rooms or something.
Yeah. Very cool. I like it. And it's black and white. You didn't mention anything about it being black and white.
I don't need to. Everybody knows it's awesome. Just like that.
This image wants to be black and white, of course.
Yeah.
All right. Moving right down. Joshua Sommerfeld is up next. Joshua Sommerfeld says, doing a pet portrait for the portrait theme because I'm not a people person. This is Moses, and I don't know why he has that guilty look, but it's definitely not because he's on the counter like he's not supposed to be. Moses, what are you doing up there? Joshua shot this with his Canon EOS 77D with a Sigma 17 to 50 millimeter f2.8 EXDCOS. So many acronyms. 50 millimeter at f2.8 for 1/200th of a second at ISO 100.
Yeah.
Right up.
I have a couple felines in the house, and I think that this is the "you need to feed me" look. I think that's what that look is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This looks like the human I am plotting to kill you.
Yeah.
Do not go to sleep tonight.
Yeah. Those eyes dilate just before they attack. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Or I would kill you, but you have control over the food supply, so I will let you live another day.
This is a great portrait. This is really good. I love the expression and everything that's going on there. The eyes being wide open. Obviously, being cat people, we read that a little bit better. I can't tell what a horse is thinking, but I can kind of tell you what a cat is thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Some dodging and burning would really help this image. The mask of the face is dark. The hindquarters of the cat, the light in the ceiling is bright. Switch those tones up. Bring us into the face more. You have latitude in the image to do that. So, just work that a little bit, and I think it would be even better. But I love it the way it is. I do like it. It's very nice.
I do too. So just a quick question. So like you say, the mask of the face is darker than the body, right? So in Capture One, how would you tackle that situation?
I would start with a radial gradient on the face. So what I do is I bring the dark area up to where I think it's appropriate, and then I do a radial mask, and I feather it, and then I bring the mask down, which means everything on the outside. So think of it like a selective vignette. And then I would bring the outside down. And in Capture One, I would use under the what would it be? It's under one of the palettes. It's under the I can't think of it. It brings down the highlights. You're gonna fix the highlights. So, and then bring the brightness slider down instead of the exposure, because the exposure is going to bring down everything too much.
Love it. Cool. All right. Well, just a sneak peek that you are putting, hopefully, the final touches or the initial touches on your Capture One training that we're going to deploy in the TWiP school. So looking forward to seeing that. All right. And Joshua, thank you for Moses. Guilty Moses.
I love that. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Guilty Moses.
Yeah. Bad Moses. All right. Michael DeRay is up next. Michael DeRay was our winner of the last contest, or the last critique session. He says the final portrait. I tried to think outside the box for this. He shot this with his Olympus PM1. Lots of Micro Four Thirds going on here today, Troy Miller. I don't know.
I'm not saying anything.
This Pen Mini OM Zuiko 50 millimeter at f1.8, f4 1/15th of a second at ISO 200. Lighting was a little keychain flashlight with a homemade snoot attached. Look at that.
Nice.
Let's bring up this thing. Look at that poor guy. Poor guy.
I wonder how
just
big
trying to make it
is.
home. He was just trying to make it home, and look what happened.
I like it. It's very film noir. It's very dark. Yeah.
It is very dark. It is very stark and what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like God, what is the word? Graphical, just, very, very simple, simplistic. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's great, and good job thinking outside the box, because I'm down with this for portrait category. I think this is fantastic.
Yeah, well, said your subject had to be alive, right? Or maybe this guy's just sleeping. This guy could be sleeping. We don't know. So
reminds me of a fly that I found in my garage, a giant fly. So I proceeded to photograph him in water, and I did macro shots with him, and I found a lizard.
What a way to honor the dead, Troy Miller. I mean, come on.
You got to use what you got. I found a gigantic lizard in my pool, so I photographed him. I did a little love story with the lizard and a Barbie doll that I had in the backyard.
Wait, was the lizard alive?
No, he was dead.
What is that dead lizard doing in your pool? Maybe you have too much chlorine. I don't know. That's awesome. The lizard's like, I'm going to sip a little bit of this, maybe take a bath, and that's it.
Yeah. He swam to the bottom, unfortunately.
Exactly. Wow. Yeah, no, this is a good
Michael,
shot. I love this.
Yeah, I love it, Michael. It's really cool. Way to think outside the box. Very creative.
Yeah. Literally. All right. And moving right along. Next shot up is from Mark Harris. He said, for the portrait theme. He shot this with his Nikon D850 Zeiss 50mm f1.4 at f10. ISO 800 at 1/800th of a second. He used high-speed sync with a Nikon speed light controlled via the Nikon Creative Lighting System from a second speed light through blinds on a background stand. Look at that. When you put that Nikon stuff in there just to try to appease you. What do you think?
Did it come through? I don't see that it changed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm not seeing it then. Okay.
You're not seeing it change on your side? Yeah, I see it.
Okay. We'll just roll with it. I got it on my side too. So I love the use of the blinds. Anytime that I see blinds, or anytime that I'm in an environment where I have blinds to work with, I always try to use them, because it's such a graphical element, and it gives us a control of light, which I really like. And I like what you did here with this, Mark. What I would probably do though is I would probably put a linear gradient from the bottom to darken that light, so that we're drawn more into her face. I would definitely do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see what you're saying. I'm looking in Skype now. I see the ant photo still on the screen, but recording here, it's correct. So
okay,
we'll just roll with it.
Yeah, and then just some image retouching elements. I mean, like, you can see there's a line across her right hip that I would probably clone out. That maybe some clothing or something, but. Great portrait, though. I mean, this is really nice. And another dark film noir type style, And Mark tends to do those, I think, quite a bit with his bodyscapes.
I love these kind of shots, because they take the attention off the background and put it right where it belongs, on the subject, and you're forced to create whatever you're going to create with just foreground elements, right, and lighting,
right.
And this could have been done in a bedroom or in the kitchen or in the garage, right? You don't know where he shot this, and it doesn't matter, because the background is right there. Nope. Yeah. Maybe not at work during the day, but
Well, I work out of my house, so
there you go. Not in a cubicle. I don't think that would fly.
Not in the cubicle. No, not in the cubicle.
But good shot.
Not suitable for work.
No, not at all. All right. Next shot up.
Got just a couple more.
Yep. Peter Levshin. No caption. Bring this up. This looks familiar. This is Las Vegas, right?
Yeah. This is it's north. Was it north? Yeah, north on the Strip on the left-hand side. I think when you walk towards there's like a sports center or something over there.
Yeah. There's a awesome. I forget the name of it, but I think it was it Canon or Nikon a couple of years ago, threw a nice dinner party in a sushi restaurant over there. It was amazing. They had live dancers and everything.
Yeah. It was right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's probably Canon. Nikon doesn't do that kind of stuff, I don't think.
Yeah, we'll go with Canon.
Yeah.
It probably was, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure it was Canon.
Yeah. They throw some good parties.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is amazing sculpture. I mean, if you ever get there and you go find this sculpture, it's gigantic and it's just absolutely beautiful. It's like this female in this like a dance pose or like an aerobic movement or something. So I was there with Peter when we were photographing this. It's not a traditional portrait. I don't know that it fits in the portrait category even. It would be hard to say. But being it's of the human form.
Yeah.
I mean, we have that element. So this is, I don't know. This is one of those kind of images that we need to have a healthy debate over, right? Like, is this portrait? Would it fit in portrait?
Yeah. I don't know. Let's have a debate on TWiP Pro. I want to hear what people think about this, because
how it fits into
it fits and if it fits, because on the one hand, it breaks all the portraiture rules, right? There's no face showing. It's not of a person, or it's not even of a live object. It is in an inanimate object, which you broke the rule of by making the portrait of a trumpet, right? So, but there was a human in there holding the trumpet.
Okay, well that's pretty much true. Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So I'm on the fence. We need some wisdom, some crowd wisdom on what constitutes a successful portrait, or what defines a portrait, because we're not
right.
clear.
We need to crowdsource the definition.
Yep, for sure. All right, let's bring this back up here. Very nice. Next shot is the last shot. Could it be? The last shot is Mike Doran. Hey, Mike Doran. This looks like a continuation of the shot from last week, because he did the group shot. Let me bring this up, see? Because he submitted this group shot last week of these girls. Let me bring this up. I'm thinking one of these girls is in that group. Yeah, could it be this one? I'm pretty sure it's the one that's third from the right. And is now in this shot.
Yep.
So, and he just shot this one, Sonoma Raceway. Let me read his caption here. Mike Doran says, I created this portrait 3 years ago. Okay. I was thinking he just did this. I created this portrait 3 years ago of my gorgeous friend Lindsay during a Sonoma Race Girl photo session. I used a 5D-RS and a 70-200 2.8L lens and edited in Capture One Pro as well as Adobe Photoshop CC 2019. Enjoy. So he shot this 3 years ago and then processed it just recently.
Yep.
Reprocessed it.
Yeah. So, nice. It looks good. I mean, you've got, the light is on her face and the color's good and good depth of field, good control. Yeah. It's a very nice portrait.
Yeah. I'm curious to see. I was really curious to hear from you. I guess there's been an ongoing theme throughout this particular critique session is what constitutes a portrait, right? Because if we look at this portrait through the lens, quote, hold up, quote fingers, through the lens of Wikipedia, then this is not a portrait, or is it, right? Because it was, it wasn't shot presumably with intent, or was it? Right? Because she doesn't go here every day and do this, and she knew Mike was there taking her photo. So is it a portrait, or, was he controlling the lighting? Was this created with intent? I'd argue it was. This was created with intent, right?
Yeah, I think so.
This makes it a portrait. What do you think?
No, I agree. I don't think you have to have eye contact to call it a portrait. I think that as long as the person is recognizable, there's a story being told in this situation. I mean, because it's not a trumpet or a statue, then it's a person. Mm-hmm. I think that the definition for portrait is much more broad than maybe it's been in a long time. And maybe what we've stumbled on is the discussion or the concept of how we use terms and what those terms mean in conversation. Yeah. Right. Like, what's the semantics? When I say portrait, what do I think? And when you say portrait, what do you think? And that might help the photo community to communicate a little bit better if we can sort of define those things a little tighter. In this situation, I think this is a fantastic portrait of Mike's gorgeous friend, Lindsay. So I think he did a good job there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of it is that the if you look at the word portrait, it was created back when the painters and the old masters were actually creating portraits and setting their subjects on stools in their studio, and portraits were in many cases created over many days, right? So then people would come in and sit for their portrait session, and come back a couple days later and they would continue. Yep. So it was the definition of intent was creating a portrait. Nowadays, technology has advanced beyond the camel hair paintbrush, right? So it's no longer necessary to have someone come back repeated times to get their portrait made, right? So
right, yeah, to do a sitting.
Yeah.
That's a term that we use, but it had a different intent back then. I mean, you had to literally sit for hours sometimes, in days. Right.
So maybe it's time to re-examine that word portrait or portraiture, which would mess a bunch of things up, because now what are you going to call WPPI?
Yeah,
it's the Wedding and something Photography International Conference.
Yeah.
So, well, cool, man. Well, we went a little bit long on this one. Geez, this may be our marathon session. We're at 1 hour and 23 seconds so far.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I hope folks stood with us through this whole thing. This may be a twofer, for people that are listening to this, if they have data on their data plan or listen to us through YouTube in the car. But
right.
One thing I want to throw out to you before we end this, Troy, real quick. Two things. I want to reiterate that next week's topic is abstract for critique number 58. Abstract. So, we've already read off the definition of what abstract is. But the second thing is a couple of people, actually like 2 or 3 people at WPPI, made the suggestion regarding these critique sessions that we also publish them as audio into the podcast feed. And it was interesting because they like to hear the banter and they just like to hear and sort of imagine what we're talking about versus having to see them. I haven't published these to date in the audio feed because it's audio and we're critiquing visual images. So I'd love to know what you think, Troy, as well as the TWiP Pro community, in the comments on this post that this is housed in a TWiP Pro. What do you think? Should we do audio or shouldn't we?
I think we should try it. See what the feedback is. I think that it's great. I do have a lot of friends that even the video podcast, the regular TWiPs, they don't actually watch the video. They listen to the audio, and if they can't find it on the podcast where it's just audio, they may look over at their phone now and then, but they love to listen to it in the background. So you do read the descriptions, you do read out a lot of the comments and the titles and things like that. So I think it's worth a try. Yeah. What does the community think? Yeah, community, let me know what you think. And, if I get enough thumbs up votes or hearts or whatever, or just let me know, and I will, I'll include. We won't do it on this one, but, starting with the next one or the one after that, we'll start producing an audio feed for this. And it's a little bit more work on this side, but it's not significant. So, I'll be happy to do that. And then at the top of the show, the reason I wouldn't want to do it on this show is because at the top of the show, I'd want to, throw a little disclaimer in there saying, hey, this is an audio show that's describing visual media. So if you want to see the visual media, then go to TWiP, thisweekinphoto.com. Yep. Check it out. All right, man. That's it for this marathon episode of the TWiP Photo Critique. Any fine? Oh, we got to pick a winner. We got to pick a winner. We got to pick a winner. We have to pick a winner. Let me go ahead and bring this up real quick. Bring up our community. And I'm going to tell you already. I already have the winner in my head. Do you?
Yes.
Oh, I hope we agree.
we may or may not agree on it. I'm gonna go with this one here, and this is Laura Patton.
Yeah.
She says, "Yep, I cropped off the head. Well, we all break the rules sometimes." Let's bring this up full screen. This is my winner, Laura Patton. What do you think?
I agree. Yeah. No contest.
We have an agreement. Yeah. Oh my God! Look at that.
Yeah. It's an amazing image.
Yeah, she did fantastic. Yeah, I like even just coming back to this image and looking at it again because it's she did such a good job on it. It's beautiful.
Yep. Fantastic job. Yep.
Cool.
I agree. Right, man. No contest. No
need for democracy.
No. Yeah. No.
All right. Well, cool. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. Congratulations, Laura Patton, for winning this week. Thank you for your submissions, and thanks to everyone who submitted this week. It's been fantastic. Thanks for putting up with all the housekeeping at the beginning of the show. That was all necessary, so I had to get that done. Make sure you guys we're all in the same page and all in the same community. Any final thoughts, Troy Miller?
No. It's every time we do this, I'm always amazed. So, to see the work that's out there. So just keep submitting.
Yep, keep submitting. Yep. All right, man. We will see you next week for TWiP Pro Photo Critique number 58. Peace.
Yes. Yay.
This is TWiP.